I mean, to me, that is the ultimate exchange of money, right? Is that I have a problem and you can solve that problem for me. You look at the word discipline, it's a derivative of the word disciple, which means to give yourself to a person or cause you believe in. When you look at the whole person, body, mind, heart, and spirit, what good is it to have sales knowledge with no desire?
The top people in the world, the most successful people, first seek to understand, and then they're understood. All right. So whatever you're doing right now, whether you're driving in your car to a sales appointment, whether you're at the gym right now, trying to look at your schedule of prospects you're talking to, whether you're picking up the phone right now to call a prospect, a follow-up call, or if you're about to run into a board meeting, or in our case now, a Zoom meeting to meet with the board to finalize a contract, I want you to think about what it takes, and have you ever wondered about what it really takes, not just talking, but doing, to be a top 1% salesperson in your industry? The salesperson who makes all the money. The salesperson who gets any promotion they want. In fact, they turn down promotions they don't want. They have all respect of the owners and everybody in the organization because they lead by example. They lead by example with the most sales. Well, my next guest is going to answer that question for you. And let me give you a small taste of his background. He is considered America's coach. It's almost like America's team, Cowboys, and a unique blend of a former championship basketball coach combined with a deep methodology of inner engineering people to produce at a higher level in the business world. He found his unique voice early in his life at age 15 by starting his basketball coaching career with a junior pro basketball team. He now coaches thousands of leaders across the country with strong, pray-drive tactics and core Christian values. He's a published author, a speaker, and mentor to many around the country. And for fun, he even likes to work. Let's welcome this man to the show, Coach Micheal Burt. Coach Burt, how are you?
Absolutely. I'm doing wonderful, man. Thanks for having me.
I love it. Thanks for being on here. You know, and I enjoy meeting with somebody that understands sales, that understands using techniques and how to use techniques that work with human behavior rather than using techniques that work against human behavior like I see out there so much. So thanks for being on here. Now, I want to dive right into your story real quick and give our listeners really a feel for your background and really how you arrived at this point where you're one of the elite authorities on persuasion and on sales. How did that happen? Where did you learn all these skills?
Well, I started coaching very, very early in life, but from 18 to 25, I was a deep disciple of Dr. Stephen Covey. And Covey taught, obviously, the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, but what he really taught was primary and secondary greatness, whole person theory, how to deeply tap into the whole person. And so I became a deep disciple of that. I was using it with my basketball teams. We began to produce at very high levels, so people were constantly asking me, how was I doing it? And that's what prompted me to start writing one of the 16 books that I've written.
Sure.
Well, along the way, you're selling. You're communicating, you're connecting. Sport is a game of probability. Selling is a game of probability.
Sure.
And so early on, I had to sell myself, sell my brand, sell my players, sell the community. And so by 31 years old, you know, big companies were offering me a lot of money to come in and coach their people. And it was always salespeople. It was always, we want to get a bump in revenue.
So we need to motivate those salespeople. We need to drive them to really learn more, to be more, to really do more. Why do you think so many people consider themselves coaches today? Well,
I'm so glad you asked that. There's roughly, or at least the statistics tell us, there's 700,000 people that claim to be coaches in the United States.
Right. There's a lot.
The average mean income of those people is $47,000 a year.
You could be a teacher and make more than that.
Exactly. And I have a strategist that runs this number, and he said to me the other day, Coach, you're in the top 0.0001% of money earners in the coaching profession. Okay. Because I do like 72 times what those people do. Now, here's the deal. Part of it is because I have a sales system.
Yeah.
I have an explanation of service.
Yeah.
I work a selling system every day. I have $1 million follow-up from a book that I wrote on that. I know how to extract referrals out of my client base.
Yeah.
I know how to become a person of interest. These are sales techniques. And because of that coaching background in me, I would never go into a game without a plan. I would never come into the day and not play the probability. So I know how to sell coaching, where lots of coaches get certifications and unfortunately they just don't know how to sell their coaching services to people, which is why they make $47,000.
It all comes down to selling. It's sad because you see coaches out there and, we're talking to coaches. Coach is a salesperson, right? Because you're selling a service, you're selling a product or service. And so they'll go out there and think like, oh, well, I need to write a book first, or I need to get certified in this first. And it's always the next thing they have to do. But one thing they haven't learned is the right communication skills and how to position their offer where they are viewed as an authority figure, not just another of the $700,000 coaches that's trying to push something down the throat of the person. How are you different than those salespeople besides that sales system that you just talked? Go a little bit deeper in that. Like, how are you different than even a coach that might make $500,000 a year? How are you different?
Well, I think it goes back to, I have a different pedigree. I have a different acumen. I was trained by different people. I've been coached by some of the best people in the world in sales, marketing, and Pray Drive. I'm writing a new book on Pray Drive right now. So I'm kind of the leading authority on activation of Pray Drive in people. Who doesn't want their salespeople, their Pray Drive to be activated? Sure. So through 18 years of actually doing it, I just have a very big engine. I have a big retention system. Yeah. And I'm very versatile. I've coached in the prison system. I've coached high-level CEOs. I've coached people worth hundreds of millions of dollars. And I've coached people just trying to do one deal. So over a course of a couple decades, that makes you very versatile. It makes you able to take on different assignments. And when you get results in different ways, what happens is it's really that long obedience in the same direction. It's 10,000 hours of practice, a lot more than 10,000 hours, which is you become an authority figure. You just know what you're doing.
What do you think makes a great coach? I mean, you train coaches, right? You train coaches from brand new newbies all the way to coaches who already make millions of dollars a year. What separates those coaches from the people that are not doing anything?
I think coaches need a system, right? What separates the coaches is I look at a person of interest and I say they have a specific knowledge. They have some impeccable skill. They have a high Pray Drive and desire. They have a contagious confidence. They typically have a good likability. Sure. They've got a good connectivity, and then they've got good networks. They understand assets and liabilities. They understand that money only changes hands when problems are solved.
Sure.
And so a good coach understands that my role in your life is to bring clarity to your confusion, but it's also to bring a structure to your missing structure. And you don't know what you don't know, right? Like you can't see the picture when you're inside the frame. So what I do is I'm a traditional coach. I'm not a coach that asks questions and lets you come to conclusions. I don't use a Socratic method. Like I bring a structure to you and say, this is what you need to do to get a 40% increase. These are your missing structures. Now, if you do it, you're going to get an increase. If you don't do it, you're not, right? And I don't listen to whining, complaining, excuses. That's the old basketball coach in me. So some people appreciate that I'm direct, I'm intense, but I'm positive.
Well, you're becoming a problem finder and a problem solver, not a product pusher. And I think when I see coaches or salespeople, it doesn't matter what you sell. It can be coaching, it can be real estate, it can be cars, it can be insurance products or financial services. It doesn't really matter. Most salespeople and coaches are taught to be product pushers. They talk about the features, the benefits of what they do and how they're the best this and they have the best that. They've got the best this thing and the best that thing, which by all means, every single salesperson and coach says that they're the best, right? How many salespeople that have recently sold you something said, oh, well, our product's fifth best in the market? No. Yep. Everybody says they're the best. And that's what causes a prospect to take that when somebody says that all the time and it goes one ear out the other because they hear it all of the time. So the best salespeople, the best coaches are the best at problem finding. And that means asking the right questions at the right time in that conversation that allows that person, that prospect, to uncover problems in their own mind that they didn't even know they had. Because if they don't know what their problem is, right? Most prospects don't know what their problems are when you first talk to them. When you're talking to a client on the phone, even if they scheduled with you, they don't really know what their true problem is most of the time, right? Otherwise, they wouldn't need you. Yeah. So your ability to ask those questions pulls those problems out. You become more what's called a problem finder, and now they're allowing you to solve their problems when they purchase from you. That is a major difference in selling in 2020, whereas selling might have been different 20 or 30 years ago. Huge difference. Now, I want to ask you this. I want to kind of roll right into this. Coaches are often authors. We all know that. You've written over 16 books. Well done. What gives you the discipline to be able to do something like that? That is not an easy thing to do.
Well, when you look at the word discipline, it's a derivative of the word disciple, which means to give yourself to a person or cause you believe in.
Mm-hmm.
And we know Jesus had 12 disciples. I wrote a book for churches called The Accountable Church.
Yeah.
And here's the concept. I asked people, do you believe in your own future? And everybody said yes. 81% of Americans say they want to write a book. That's 200 million Americans. So much so that we've developed a publishing division and we write the book for them because we know they don't have the discipline to do it. It is a labor of love. When I sit down and write a book, it's a labor of love. I don't write a book now unless I think it starts a movement, solves a major problem in the world. In the old days, I'd have a thought and I'd write a book on it, right? Like there's no research on it. It's like, hey, I got a book, I write the book. But the discipline to me is the value of a book changed my life.
Yeah.
At 18 years old, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People changed my life, man.
Yeah.
And I know the value of exposure and how exposure activates the prey drive in a person.
Yeah.
So I'm huge on reading books and studying great people. And so if you got a book in you, if life's worth living, it's worth writing down.
You know, one of the greatest things I ever learned from Stephen Covey, because I went to a couple of his events. I went to college in Utah, so that's where he was based out of before he passed away. And he said that, you know, the top people in the world, the most successful people, first seek to understand, and then they're understood. And as a salesperson or communicator, if you don't understand what that means, you are missing the boat. Too many times I see friends, you know, let's just talk about politics for a second. I'm on Facebook, I see friends, and I'm not really into the politics game. I'm kind of right. I'm like an independent. I just think everybody's crazy attacking each other, right? But I see people attacking each other every day. Republicans attacking the Democrats and Democrats attacking the Republicans. And it goes back and forth with my friends because they're equally Republican, Democrat, probably 50-50 split. I'm like, I asked this question the other day. I just said a post like, how many of you think that everything you're posting every day, the 10 negative things about the other political party, how many minds do you think you're really changing on the other side? How many of your friends have come to you and said, you know what, you're right. I'm just going to give up membership in the Democratic Party. I'm going to Republican tomorrow. I'm just going to switch parties and allegiance, and I'm going to vote for the person you said is the best. Nobody does. All you do is you make them dig in with their heels even more. And that was one of the biggest things I ever learned. I learned that from him when I was 20 years old going to college. Insanely so important if you don't understand that. What's your favorite topic to create content around? I wanted to ask you that.
Well, you know, right now I'm fascinated. I always ask this question: what could I be both motivated and fascinated by for the rest of my life? And what have I really been doing for the last 28 years? And that has been activating the primal drive in a person that has typically gone dormant or latent, or it's never been activated. And so I'm in a deep study right now of what activates that, what we call prey drive, PREYDRIVE in a person. Because I'm writing this book on prey drive. And some of it's qualitative, right? Me coaching thousands of people for 28 years. But to me, until this switch is flipped, and that's the title of the book called Flip the Switch. It doesn't matter about what sales techniques you use. Now let's go back to Covey for a second. When you look at the whole person, body, mind, heart, and spirit, what good is it to have sales knowledge with no desire? What good is it to have sales desire with no confidence?
Sure.
What good is it to have confidence with no skill? That's the whole person. So when I'm coaching salespeople, it's easy for me to identify this is where he's missing. He lacks knowledge. He lacks skill. He lacks desire. He lacks confidence. So when I'm building content, all of my content comes back to that. There's a system I'm coaching people to.
Yeah.
Activation of prey drive, explanation of service, selling system to generate leads, follow up, extraction of referral, person of interest. Now, I can find millions of dollars in any person, any company in one of those areas, right? That's a missing structure.
Now, I want to get into the speaking part that you do. And obviously with COVID-19 and stuff, I'm assuming most of your speaking gigs have gotten canceled or they're more virtual. I know I had 21 that were scheduled this year, all gone, but that's okay. It's okay. We're doing this right now. When you first got into speaking, were there any fears around that when you began?
You know, I was fortunate. When I was 15 years old, I had a dentist in my town. I grew up in a very small town in Tennessee, and he had a dramatic arts background, a theater background. And he chose one student at the local high school every year that he wanted to sew into and teach them how to speak. teach them dramatic arts. I was a sports person. I was an athlete. So that was foreign to me.
Sure.
Right. And so every night after basketball practice, I would go up to his house and he would help me write speeches and speak. And it really turned me on to speaking. So, the biggest thing I've done, I spoke at 10X, at Mandalay Bay, 10,000 people. I've done big events. Even as a kid, I was doing big events, 15 and 16 years old, but there's always a healthy anxiety. There's always a healthy fear. Can I connect with the audience? Is it going to work? And that doesn't matter if it's 5 people or 5,000 people.
100%.
And I think that's a good thing. But that's the coach in me. We had a game every Tuesday and Friday night, man. And you didn't know if you're going to win or lose. And
every opponent's different, right? Every audience is different, right? The 10X event that has 10,000 people, obviously you're going to be a little bit different connecting with those if you're in a group of maybe 500 or 1,000, that's a little bit more intimate. It's a different audience for sure.
So I love the speaking part of it. I do it primarily to drive leads. I mean, that's how I started in this business. When I wrote my first book, I just would go out and speak. People would ask me to speak. Then people began asking, how much would it cost for you to be my coach? Yeah. Then companies started offering me a lot more money to be their coach than me coaching high school basketball. Then it's like, okay, well, then individuals said, well, how can we be coached by you? So we started our coaching program called Monster Producer. Yeah. And so that's kind of how this whole thing started, was first writing, then speaking, then coaching, then online academies, then all kinds of plays from those since then.
Yeah, I love that. And now you help others, you help them sell themselves, and in turn, you turn them into what you call triple threats, right? Speakers, authors, and coaches. What makes it easy to sell someone in your mind?
Solving a problem. I mean, to me, that is the ultimate exchange of money, right? Is that I have a problem and you can solve that problem for me. Yeah. I'm doing things like $1 Million Coaching Summits now. I'm doing publishing retreats, which have been very successful because of the high number of people who want to speak. And I've been doing that for 18 years. I've figured out how to build a multi-million-dollar coaching company. So I'm doing really interesting things: how to make it $1 million a year speaking, how to make it $1 million a year with online courses, how to make $1 million a year with a book, and these are things that the average person just don't know how to do. Okay. They just, they want to speak. They think they have a message, but they have no idea how to monetize that message. And that's something we figured out how to do over the last 18 years. And we figured out how to do it at a very high level.
Where do you suggest they start with? Like, what's point A for somebody listening on this that wants to get into coaching, that wants to be a speaker, that wants to be an author? What's point A? Like, what's the first thing they first need to do?
I think the point A is they need to be successful baking the cake.
Sure.
Like it's a financial advisor that's broke, but wants to teach other financial advisors. Yeah. It's the doctor that's out of shape. Like, a lot of people have not done enough of their own personal revelation to do it, to be able to teach other people how to do it. They want to teach other people how to do it, but they don't have a demonstrated capacity to do it themselves. I only teach people how to do things that I've done.
Well, they're amateurs, and you see it all the time, right? There's 700 some thousand people that say they're a coach, right? And I'll see that even in sales. Like, you'll see a salesperson that let's say sells insurance, and they make 120,000 a year. Well, that's great, but you need to learn more advanced skills in insurance to be able to sell way more than that, to be an expert and to be able to write your own books and do your own training programs and be able to duplicate that. Another danger you also see is salespeople and coaches in one industry that can teach you how to do it for just that one industry, but they try to go out there and think it's duplicatable for other industries, and they don't have anything that's duplicatable in sales, right? You see somebody that might have made 250 grand a year in insurance, which is good. It's not great, but it's good. But then they go out and try to teach salespeople that sell cars how to sell cars, but they don't have a duplicatable system, a sales system that can actually do that. And then people fail, and they don't really go anywhere in coaching because they don't have they don't have the right testimonials. They don't have a lot of them, and they don't really know how to build that out. So I think it's so important what you said, Coach Burt, is you have to become an expert, like a real legitimate expert. And that takes time sometimes. Sometimes it's going to take more than 6 months, or, oh, you've been successful for 1 year. Okay, but you need to learn more than that to be able to teach people really how to get crazy, extraordinary results. 100% agree with you. How do you handle objections when you're selling to such large, let's say, enterprise companies?
Well, my philosophy on selling to an enterprise company is you're still selling to an individual within the enterprise. And I think that's why a lot of people don't try to sell to enterprises. It seems complicated. Now,
Sure.
we know that the statistics tell us that most people consult with 5.4 to 5.7 people when making a decision, but you're really selling somebody in that company. Every major contract I had with the company started with one person being sold on me.
Yeah.
It may have been the CEO, it may have been this national sales director, but somebody like me. My philosophy on objection is this. I like breaking words down. Objection is just opposition of thought. Many times it's because of fear and uncertainty, fear being an emotion created by a belief that something is going to harm me in the future. That creates uncertainty, vacillation, doubt. So what's happening is these two frames are colliding. I have a very high degree of certainty because of the number of years that I've done it and the proof of concept of the people I've done it for.
Sure.
So when you object with me, I try to get down to the essence of why. Is there any other reason outside of this one thing you're telling me?
Well, what's behind the objection?
Yeah, that's keeping you from moving forward. Like you're telling me it's money, right? And then I challenge people because I'm an expert. So I say, would you be open to looking at it this way? Sometimes I say the way you're looking at it's all wrong. There's a difference between what something costs and what something's worth. If a company pays me $150,000 to be their coach, but they make 3.4 million, then is that right? It cost 150, but they made 3.4 million. Now, would you take that bet?
Of course, there's a gap there, right? So if we can ask the right questions, to clarify and discuss and diffuse that objection in their mind, where they're paying you 150,000, but they believe that 150,000 investment is going to make them an extra $3 million a year, then 150,000 looks like chump change.
And that's really the concept is people are scared to invest. They don't have the courage. They don't think they can reproduce the money. And so they don't take action. Coaches that try to sell sales training that can't sell their own services have a problem. Okay. There's 30,000 John Maxwell certified coaches.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, what I'd be interested to see is how many of those 30,000 can take what they've learned under the master, under John, and actually go make even 100,000 with it in coaching, let alone 1 million. And I have a barometer. Okay. This is me. If you are earning $1 million of personal income a year, you have figured something out. Okay. Because that puts you in a very elite category. If you figure out how to make 2 million or 5 million or 10 million, then you're there. But if you are anything below that number, in my opinion, then you have room to grow.
Sure.
Okay. So I hear people say all the time, oh, I made 250,000, or I'm doing great, or I made $500,000, or I did this. And I'm like, man, there's somebody doing 10 times the amount you're doing.
Well, I always say this. Why do so many salespeople that make low six figures have such high egos? And it's their ego that holds them back from becoming great. Like when I was in sales in the companies that I sold for, yep, from 2008 to 2017, before I started this company, I averaged over 2.4 million a year in 3 different industries as a W-2 salesperson getting paid straight commission. Yep. And the crazy thing is when I would come into those companies, their top salesperson might be making 250, 300, 350 grand a year, but they would never ask me questions. And I was doing that a month. Yep. And they were so prideful that their pride and ego held them back from probably doubling or tripling their revenue just because they didn't know the right communication skills to be able to communicate what they were offering to their buyers. And you see that so many times, like they get just big egos and their ego just holds them back. And I always say that it's not necessarily just fear that holds you back. It's also your ego to think you're so awesome that you can't learn anymore.
Yeah. And I have a theory on that, man. I'm open and humble and coachable. And if you figured out how to make 50 cents more than I have, something I don't know. Okay. And I'm open to it. I'm like, hey man, give it to me. Right. But so many people, and that is the unfortunate part of pride. That's the unfortunate part of ego, is that it prohibits us from breaking through a ceiling. It prohibits us from going to a higher frequency. Yeah. And, and I could almost always show you someone in your industry that's doing 10 times the amount you are. Sure. And the question is, do you want to be number one in your little local area, or do you want to be number one on planet Earth? Sure. And, and I think it's good to be number one where you're at or wherever, but there's always upward growth. And I think people need to be hungry.
Well, let me give you an example. Yeah. Like when I was in sales, my last 3 years, I was awarded the top 50 top income earners in the entire world out of anybody in the direct sales industry. That's 180 million people that are in direct sales, in selling anything, right? Ranked number 45th in the entire world. You can Google that. Uh-huh. And I was still trying to learn from the people ahead of me. There was 44 people in the entire world that made more than I did. in the all of direct sales, and I was on the phone trying to learn from them how the hell they were making more than me as a top income earner. And you have to be that way if you want to be the best, if you want to get to that level. You have to. I would even learn from people who made half of what I did, because maybe there's something in there that they're doing that I could do a little bit differently that would make me better.
Yeah.
You know? So you have to have that. So I know we're running out of time. What would you tell our listeners who might be pivoting into coaching, speaking, and leading, or selling in general? What's some really good advice you give them before you have to go?
They need to go learn under someone who has done it at a very high level.
Yeah.
They need to spend the money, make the investment. Listen, it's just like the starving artist that won't get the manager because they're afraid the manager is going to steal all the money that they don't have. What they need to do is they need to go to things of people who are doing what they want to do. If they have to save, if they have to live out of their sacrifice, whatever they have to do to get to that level, they need to do it, and do it quick. Like I could have even started earlier in my life. So that's what I would recommend. Study under a guy like you, study under a guy like me, come to the boot camps, come to the coaching summits. Like I teach you everything. I don't hold anything back.
Yeah.
I mean, I give everything that I've got. I show you exactly what I did, what worked, what didn't work.
Yeah.
How it's working.
Yeah. I mean, a good friend of mine, Brad Lee, if you know him with Lightspeed VT. Yeah. You know, good friend of mine, he always talks about, is training something you did, or is training something that you do? And that is so true. It's something like I'm driving down the road today, I'm plugging in something on sales or business or leadership because I have to continually learn if I want to get better at what I'm doing. Hey, I can't thank you enough for being on the show today. Where can our listeners learn more about Coach Burt in your training? Is there somewhere they can opt into or learn more about what you do?
Yeah, I would go to coachburt.com.
Okay.
A lot of my books are free right now, my top books that you can get for free. I would recommend you get some of those. I do a speaking summit coming up in September. I do a publishing summit in November. These would be great chances for you to spend time with me in a intimate setting for 3 or 4 days at one of the properties I own. But just know this, man, everybody needs a good coach in their life. You search Coach Micheal Burt. I think I got 1,075 videos on YouTube. So there's plenty of content for you to get to know me, and let me help you just take your deal to the next level.
So go to Coach, if you're listening right now, go to CoachBurt, BURT.com,
Yep.
Opt in, get a book, get busy, contact Coach Burt. If you want help, if you want to really increase your sales, increase your speaking, coaching. I know we have a lot of coaches and speakers and trainers on here as well. You've got to learn from people who are actually at the very best in that space. Coach Burt,
thank you, man. Really enjoyed my time with you. You're a cool dude. Thank you.
Now, if you're serious about joining the top 1%, I mean the top 1%, and you want to experience more training content just like this, click the links right over there. Right over there, they're exactly what you need to see next. You see, I release new episodes featuring top salespeople and sales authorities, multiple six-figure, high six-figure, even seven-figure earners every Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday every single week at 10 a.m. Eastern, 7 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. And if you're new here, do yourself a favor and smash that subscribe button right below, and join our new Facebook group, Sales Revolution. You see, it's free, and there's a link in the description below just for you. We put it there for you. Finally, I make posts on Facebook and Instagram each and every day with more tips and training. So be sure and follow me and turn on your notifications. So make a comment in the first 7 minutes to any of my latest posts, share this episode, and there's a very real chance that you're gonna win some killer prizes. And here's the thing, don't sit on the sidelines. Don't be like everyone else. Get into the game. Join the sales revolution. Stay active, get involved, learn the right skills, and we will show you how to take your life and income to a level that most only dream about. Stay safe. Talk to you soon.